Hey there. Ready to really dive into the gaming world?
Yeah.
We're tackling a big one today. Is the gaming industry, like really in crisis mode.
Yeah.
You brought in this YouTube video essay, pretty interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And seems like we're about to unpack some serious challenges for these big game studios.
Yeah.
Layoffs, canceled projects, even some, I don't know, almost philosophical stuff about the future of gaming.
Yeah, for sure.
Where do we even begin?
Well, I think what's striking is the video goes beyond just like surface level stuff, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't just say, oh, things are changing. It digs into why these changes are happening
Okay.
and what they might mean for, what we play.
Okay, so let's unpack that. The gaming industry is in crisis. It grabs you right from the start
Yeah.
with the sheer number of layoffs happening. And we're not talking small studios, are we?
Not at all. We're talking even giants. Insomniac.
Right.
Naughty Dog. Guerrilla Games.
Whoa.
They've all had layoffs.
Big names.
Over 8,000 jobs lost just this year.
8,000.
And that's on top of the over 10,000 from last year.
Wow.
So it really highlights how significant this is.
Yeah, 8,000, that's not just a number, that's people, right?
Yeah.
That's people's livelihoods. It's one thing to hear about layoffs like as a news item, but that's families, that's people's lives.
For sure.
And what I thought was interesting is the video points out how even studios with big hits to their name
Yeah.
are feeling the squeeze, like they use Insomniac as an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
They created Spider-Man 2. It's been crazy successful.
Massively successful. I mean, Insomniac, they were acquired by Sony. They're pumping out hit after hit.
Huge.
And yet they still had layoffs. It makes you wonder if these incredibly successful studios are struggling.
Right.
What does that mean for everyone else?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And then they said the gaming market as a whole is actually doing pretty well. It seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's not like we're talking about a shrinking market or anything.
Right.
According to industry analyst Jeff Grubb, the market's actually up around 4% this year.
Wow. Okay.
So people are still buying games.
So the market's growing, the money's there. Why are these studios struggling?
That's the big question.
Yeah. What's the disconnect?
Well, the video points to this idea of market contrition.
Contrition.
Basically, a correction is happening. The industry has seen massive growth, but that growth might not have been sustainable.
Okay.
So now we're seeing a readjustment,
Okay.
and that's leading to some tough decisions for studios.
So it's like, what happens when a bubble bursts? Almost. Right.
Exactly.
But
But then what's driving that correction?
well, one factor is this whole question of the viability of AAA. Viability of AAA? What does that even mean?
So AAA meaning, can these massive, expensive games continue to be profitable long term?
You mean those games with huge budgets, years of development time?
Exactly, yeah. The traditional AAA model, where you pour, hundreds of millions of dollars into a game hoping it's a blockbuster.
Right.
The video argues that that model might be reaching its limit. It's just not sustainable.
And they use that Suicide Squad game as an example,
Yeah.
which, if I remember, totally flopped.
Completely bombed. And the developers themselves even admitted that the market might be experiencing, some fatigue from these overpriced, kind of underwhelming games.
Interesting. But then again, you have Spider-Man 2, which is a massive success story.
Right.
So is it the games themselves, the price tag? What's going on?
It's probably a combination of factors. Gamers are becoming more cautious about spending, $70 on a game?
Yeah.
Especially with so many other entertainment options available. And then there's always that worry, is it going to be released with bugs? Am I going to need a day one patch?
Right. And for $70, you want it to work flawlessly out of the box, right?
Exactly. So this is where the idea of consumer trust comes in. Gamers are less likely to take a risk on a pricey title if they're not confident in the quality.
So you're saying it's not just about the games, it's about the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
The price, the marketing, the expectations, all of it.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
And what I find fascinating is the video doesn't just dwell on the negative, it points to some potential bright spots.
Okay, like what?
Like the rise of AA games.
AA. All right, you're going to have to break that down for me.
So these are games that might not have the massive budgets of, say, a Call of Duty or a Spider-Man,
Okay.
but they're still high-quality, polished experiences. They often prioritize fun, innovative gameplay over cinematic cutscenes or these sprawling open worlds.
That actually makes a lot of sense because there's something to be said for a game that's just pure fun.
Totally.
Without all the bells and whistles. And they use that new Helldivers 2 game, right?
Yes. Helldivers 2 is a perfect example. Smaller team, tighter budget, but they can still deliver a fantastic experience.
Right, and they don't have to recoup hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, exactly.
So they can sell it at a lower price, right?
Yeah.
Makes it more accessible.
You have a much wider audience. And it seems like a win-win, right?
Yeah.
Gamers get a great game at a fair price, and the studio gets to be more creative.
So smart. And without the pressure of needing that blockbuster hit.
Exactly.
Speaking of pressure, didn't the video talk about how even studios delivering those blockbuster hits are facing challenges?
They are. And that brings us to another layer of this complex issue. Even when a studio delivers a hit, the pressure to replicate that success, to constantly outdo themselves, can be immense.
Yeah.
And that can lead to some, well, unsustainable practices.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, you made $1 billion, now do it again.
Right.
But bigger and better.
Exactly.
That's got to take a toll on the creative team.
Oh, absolutely. And the video uses the example of Naughty Dog.
Okay.
The studio behind The Last of Us.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, massively acclaimed.
Yeah.
But even with that success,
Right.
they've had layoffs.
Really?
And the video suggests this constant pressure, right?
Yeah.
To chase bigger and bigger hits can lead to burnout, crunch time,
Oh, for sure.
and ultimately might not be sustainable.
Yeah. It's like that saying, it's lonely at the top, right?
Yeah.
You think these studios are celebrating not facing more pressure?
Right.
It really makes you think about the human cost.
It does. And it makes you think, how do we, even measure success in this industry?
That's a good point.
Is it just sales figures? Or should we be considering,
Yeah.
the well-being of the people who make these games?
The people, yeah.
Yeah.
Because without them, we don't have the games, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of things that might be putting pressure on these studios,
Yeah.
the video talked about licensed IPs.
Yeah. It seems like every studio wants the next Marvel game.
Oh, for sure. Or Star Wars.
Right.
Which makes sense. Those are huge names. They're going to draw people in.
Yeah.
But it made me think, maybe there's a downside to that.
Totally. It's double-edged lightsaber, right? On one hand, yeah, a known IP, it attracts players. But it also comes with huge licensing fees.
Yeah.
Creative restrictions.
Oh, right.
That can eat into profits and even stifle innovation.
Interesting.
And they actually pointed to EA
Oh, okay.
as an example.
Really?
They're moving away from those big pricey licenses.
EA? I thought they were all about those big sports games.
Sure.
FIFA, or I guess it's EA Sports FC now.
Exactly. They even canceled a Mandalorian game that was in development.
Whoa, seriously, a Mandalorian game?
Yeah, they canceled it.
From the studio that made Titanfall.
Yeah, Titanfall, Apex Legends.
Wow, okay.
It makes you wonder, are these surefire bets always the answer?
Right, yeah. So if these studios are pulling back from those massive projects,
Yeah.
what does that mean for gaming's future? The video seemed kind of unsure about that.
It was a bit of a question mark, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There's this worry that we'll just see generic games,
Oh, no.
AI-generated stuff, just designed to make a quick buck. Less about pushing boundaries,
Yeah, less passion.
Exactly.
More about the profit.
Exactly.
Which would be sad, I think, for everybody.
Yeah.
But I have to believe there's hope for the future, right?
Oh, absolutely. The video highlights, the creativity, the resilience of this community
Okay, good.
and this rise of the AA studios. It's a perfect example.
Right, yeah.
They're leaner, they're more agile, they can take risks.
And they're not beholden to those budgets and expectations, right?
Exactly. They have the freedom to innovate.
That's so cool. So maybe less is more really applies here.
Yeah.
Focus on a great experience, even on a smaller scale.
Exactly.
But you know what we haven't talked about?
What's that?
The pandemic. Remember when we were all stuck inside?
Oh, tell me about it.
And gaming was the thing.
It was huge.
Oh, yeah.
And the video talked about that.
Right, because it was like
Yeah.
the whole world hit fast forward on gaming trends.
Exactly.
And maybe, just maybe, this
Yeah.
was the new normal,
Right. Everyone's a gamer now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the studios are scrambling, right?
Trying to keep up.
Trying to keep up, trying to meet the demand.
Yeah, and that's where, as the video says, maybe there were some miscalculations.
Like overhiring,
Yeah, overspending.
based on those numbers.
Based on this idea that this is the new baseline, right?
It's the new normal.
Exactly.
But as things calmed down,
Right, and it's stabilizing.
people went back to some of their old habits, right?
Exactly, and now those numbers have declined.
Right.
So the studios are trying to adjust to this post-pandemic world.
It's a tough spot to be in
It really is.
because you make decisions based on what you think the future holds.
Right. Long-term planning based on short-term trends.
And suddenly things change.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even in a digital world, real-world stuff still has an impact.
Big time. And it speaks to flexibility, right?
Totally.
Adaptability,
For sure.
which honestly the gaming industry is usually pretty good at, right?
They're always evolving,
Yeah.
pushing boundaries.
Yeah. Finding new ways to entertain us.
Exactly.
Speaking of evolution, there was another point they made. They said this whole shakeup might actually be good in the long run.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's easy to focus on the negative, right?
Layoffs, cancellations.
Exactly. But the video argues that this could be a much-needed correction for the industry.
Like clearing out the deadwood to make way for new growth.
That's a great way to put it. It's about finding a path forward that makes sense.
Okay.
One that balances the art with the business side of things.
Right, but you're going to make money.
Exactly. And that might mean changing how things have always been done.
So maybe this isn't a crisis, but more like growing pains.
I like that. The industry's maturing, figuring things out.
Finding its footing, yeah.
Exactly. And remember those AA games we talked about?
Yeah.
That's a perfect example of this evolution happening.
They're leaner, they're more agile, not afraid to take risks.
And they're not beholden to those massive budgets.
Right. They have more freedom to just try stuff.
And that's exciting for everyone, really.
It means more variety, more creativity in the games we play.
New voices get a chance to shine.
So after this deep dive, what's the biggest thing that sticks with you?
I hope listeners come away with, I don't know, a sense of cautious optimism.
Okay, I like that.
There are challenges,
Yeah.
no doubt. But the gaming world is resilient,
Yeah.
It adapts. And the future isn't just up to the big studios.
Oh, that's a good point. We have a say in this too, right?
Exactly. We choose what games we spend our money on, what experiences matter to us. So pay attention to those smaller studios, the ones pushing boundaries.
The innovators.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to try something new.
Yeah.
And most importantly, have fun out there.
Couldn't agree more. This has been really eye-opening. It's a wild time to be a gamer. So what kind of gaming future are you hoping for?